Hello and welcome to this live stream. Happy spring, very clearly, as you can see here, with all these tulips. And I hope you guys are doing well. Now, I'm just going to check the audio quality and wait for people to roll in. I hope you're having a lovely week so far. Yeah, I guess it's already like a new week. It's kind of crazy. And today I wanted to talk about a few. Whoops. Let's put this down here. Okay, so I actually made like a list of things that I wanted to talk about. So yeah, so much to that. I'm just gonna check the audio quality here real quick. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. I also want to say I'm not 100% sure how long I'm gonna be live. Okay, let me just do one thing at a time. It's really good. Okay, yeah, great. Seems to be working. Amazing. Always good when that happens. So I have these tulips here, and I think I might just keep them here for a little bit because I like them a lot. I like how they look in the picture too. Yeah, it was Tulip Day. When was it? What's today? Today's Tuesday. By the time you see it, no, it's Wednesday. By the time you see it, it's Thursday. So yeah, I guess on Sunday it was like Tulip Day here in Manhattan, and really fun day. Unfortunately, it was very cold this year, so I went last year too. And just when you have like two pictures you can compare it with. Last year, I was not wearing my winter jacket and gloves, and it was actually quite nice. It was sunny, it was warm. And this year, unfortunately, it was quite cold. Even the friends I went with said it was, yeah, it was just unusually cold, And I do have to say, it's been an unusually cold winter overall. I don't know where you are. I know if you're like the 13% of the world population, yes, it's only 13%. So the majority of the world is in the Northern Hemisphere. But if you're part of the minority that is in the southern hemisphere, meaning you are in Australia, South Africa, or parts of Africa in general, or somewhere in South America. I know right now you are in fall, autumn, but for the majority of people, we are in spring. We just started this new season and everything, no matter where you are. And so it's been unusually cold. But I also know, for example, around the Sydney area, because my one friend lives in Sydney, he said also for their summer, it wasn't necessarily like a typical summer. So I think it's just been very strange in general. Okay, hi to Minnie and hi to Zui. I think that's how you pronounce your name. I don't know. So yeah, great to see you guys. Thanks for rolling in. Thanks for joining so late. So this is once again more of like a later live stream as per usual. I mean, you guys know the drill at this point. I go live super spontaneously. Yes, you do need to be subscribed to this channel in order to join the live. Obviously, you can always watch the replay in replay whenever the live is over. But and of course, you can always comment and everything after that too. But I do go live quite spontaneously. So for people who don't know, I don't actually announce my lives because there's just so much interference in general, and it's really annoying. Like I already said in the last live stream that we had, and it's already been 3 months, right? Yeah, let me just check real quick. I think that was like January 1st, exactly on January 1st. So it's been exactly 3 months because while I'm recording this, we're rolling into April 3rd. So a lot has happened. Um, and like I already said in the beginning of this year, so we're in 2025. This is a Mars year. So this is a 9 year with the underlying numerology of a 7, meaning there's also a lot of heightened spirituality, which is amazing. It's great. But we are in this Mars year, and I think we can really feel that. And I'm just so baffled once again how almost every single prediction made in that live stream actually came true. We had the fires, which fires have been all over, even here in New York City, but we had the ones that were in LA specifically, like in that area. And that's just been wow. Okay, crazy. So it's sad that it actually came true, but yes, it has been true. And I do think this summer a lot of things are going to be heating up. So if you are in an area that is prone to these wildfires, which aren't as wild after all, as we all know, be prepared because this is definitely the year where any fire caused by anything would probably be reason to just flame up in general. It's worse than in any other year. At least that's what I would be predicting for this particular year. Also war, we had like that pseudo peace treaty or whatever in the Middle East, especially on the Gaza Strip, but not really, because everything is still blowing up over there. I mean, like I predicted, this is not a year for peace necessarily, due to that underlying war energy, that underlying, explosiveness, in your face type of energy. I'm actually really liking the tulips. I don't know why. It's kind of nice to have this natural components in your face. Or like, when you touch plants and anything, like anything that's natural, like something that's so connected to earth, because there's actually earth, they're an actual earth. So I had to plant them and everything after receiving them. It just grounds you right now. And I feel, especially with the energies that we're currently dealing with, a lot of grounding is necessary, but I want to talk about that too. There's just so much to talk about, and I want to. That's why I wrote all these notes. I have to take it step by step. So, yeah, it's not the year for peace, and I do think there's going to be more stuff blowing up, possibly around Syria and Lebanon again, or just in other areas in the world too. But that's just the type of energy we're dealing with. So unfortunately, a lot of things have come true. Here in New York specifically, I actually have 3 acquaintances who lived in certain parts of Brooklyn, so different parts of Brooklyn. And one of them was actually in the newspaper because of it. Like a lot of them were in the news, but this one in particular was so bad. So they had a fire in their building. And this one was in Williamsburg, for people who are local. And that was legit beginning of the year. Yeah, like sometime in January, they had this huge, massive fire in their building. And even though the firefighters came right away, it took like 2-3 hours to get out. So that was pretty massive, especially because we're in winter here. There was a lot of snow around that time. It wasn't like in California where everything was dry or whatever. Yeah, they could not put it out, and she lost everything. It was her and her son. They had whatever they had. They grabbed their coats. I don't even know. I don't think she even grabbed her laptop. Like she just grabbed, I think she grabbed her passports. Yeah. I remember her saying she grabbed her passports, her coats or whatever. They've lost everything, absolutely everything. So there's like these 3 GoFundMe's floating around from people that I know who lost a lot of stuff in fires just here in New York where I am. And so I was like, yeah, that's legit. Unfortunately, it is legit, the energy we're dealing with right now. I mean, it's fiery, it's explosive. It's not necessarily working in our favor or like in people's favors in general. But on the other hand, fire can be incredibly cleansing too. If you want to look at the positive side, yes, everything's in ashes and things have to be rebuilt. But, for my one friend in particular, like she decided she's just going to move somewhere entirely different. Like she's actually going to leave the area she's been in for a very long time. I think she's been here for 20 something years. And I know she's been wanting to do that for a little while already because she wasn't entirely happy. But maybe that kind of gave her the push to finally do it. Let's put it that way, So there's always positives, even though, of course, it's a really crappy thing that happened. And luckily, no one lost their lives in that particular case. There's always like a positive twist that you can make, in your own experience in your own life. And I think that's really how we have to see things right now. Anyhow, if you want to keep your sanity, you need to see the positive in these situations. And the positives is, yes, of course, everything's down in ashes on the ground, but at the same time, now she wants a new start somewhere entirely different. And I do think energetically that's a great thing for her, because it's just been, you can tell when someone's unhappy, let's put it that way. And it has been really tough here in particular, especially like in these larger cities, but also elsewhere, all over, like no matter which country you're in, like the energy has just really been a bit crazy since 2020 on, for sure. But I feel especially like I wanted to talk about this in a separate video, but I'm just going to mention it in this live stream too. I really feel the October 2023 energy and on has been something different. I already personally know a few people who were impacted by their relatives either taking their own lives or somehow mysteriously passing away at a way too young age. That's just happened with people I personally know. And I just, it's just been funky, and people can feel that, or people just really not being who they were before. And also energies of lands are changing. And something's really off when you visit a land and you come back like a year later or half a year later, which was the case for me when I did a few of these travels, and it wasn't in the US. So I know it's not just in the US where the energy's funky and off. And you're like, yeah, the entire energy of this place has changed. And it makes you a little bit sad almost, but it just shows you how off things are right now. And I really do feel this was set in motion in October 2023. So around 1.5 years ago from the time I'm recording this right now. And sure, whatever happened like in Gaza and everything, that is its own separate whatever. But I do think a lot of, because that's like a spiritual hotspot right now, right there. You know, if I had like these 3 videos on what was happening in that particular area, because I myself have visited that area in 2023 before things blew up. So it's a highly spiritual area. It has a lot of these artifacts and these spiritual treasures that they really want to get to. A lot of these portals as well that they don't want regular people to have access to. Let's put it that way. And so I do feel that is part of why the energy definitely feels off, but there's other reasons for that too. But if they're attacking such spiritual ground, or such spiritual ground is in a war energy, that's obviously having a massive impact all over. And so people just losing it left and right, all of that is part. So, okay. I'm just going to look at my notes here again before I lose what I wanted to say exactly, because we're already like 10, 11 minutes in and it's a bit crazy. Minnie saying she wanted to talk about ancestry and adoption. Yes, so I will talk about, I will talk about the ancestral course because it's really an amazing, amazing course. But and I do have a section on adoption too. I just want to mention that too as well. But before I dive into that, I want to stick to this list right here. So the actual new year, let's talk about the actual new year, because right now, as I'm recording this, it's the beginning of April. There always seems to be a lot of confusion in regards, yes, Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year to Annie. Nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. I'm so surprised that people are tuning in. And I guess right now it's a good time for California. As per usual, California is always good. The West Coast good. It's a good time for Australia. It's a good time for maybe parts of Europe that are slowly waking up, or the ones that have that aren't sleeping at all, or the ones that have a job where they have to get up really early. So yes, good morning, good day, whenever you see this. Okay, actual New Year. So there seems to be a lot of confusion. So first and foremost, we had the equinox, which this year was on the 20th, right? Sometimes it's like the 21st, but I think this year it was on the 20th, March 20th. And then you have the start of the astrological new year, which is around the exact same time. So it tends to be March 20th, 21st, whenever we enter Aries season, which is that first zodiac sign. And that is the actual start. Okay, I gotta make sure this doesn't fall down. That is the actual start of the astrological new year. So we have those 2 events, and that's why a lot of people already are saying that is the actual new year, blah, blah, blah. And yes, I guess you could argue in that sense if you follow those things. Absolutely. For me, I don't really follow any of that, at least not profoundly. Let's put it that way. I do mention sometimes, oh, we're in a Mars year, or we're in Taurus season or Aries season or whatever, but I don't really, as you guys know, there's so much that goes into astrology and other parts of it that I just feel a lot of people don't go deep enough, or at least as deep as they should go. So then we have another date, which is March 25th. And then we have April 1st, that a lot of these truthers or mistruthers, how I call them, because that's basically what they are, like to say, oh, this is the actual new year. There seems to be a lot of confusion. So historically, for over 1,000 years, and this is until they switched to the Gregorian calendar. So when we were still under the Julian calendar, which the Julian calendar was named according to Gaius Julius Caesar, and the Ides of March was when he was basically murdered by his best friends and 60 other senators because they didn't like him for whatever reason. So according to him, we had that calendar, the Julian calendar. I mean, he's like, oh, I celebrate on April 1st. Yeah, I know a lot of people. And April 1st is a wonderful date, and the entire Fool's energy. See, this is why I wanted to go live on April 1st, actually, and talk about all these things, and also the ancestral healing course and everything. But then I was just like, first of all, the energy was so funky because we had just come out of this eclipse thing, and I was tired. I think I slept from April 1st until this night. I actually slept like 11 hours. Yeah, I slept a really long time, which was well needed. So I know I was extremely exhausted. So doing a live stream exhausted, it's not a lot of fun. It's not a lot of fun for me. It's not a lot of fun for you guys. you get the point. It's just like you want to be well rested when you're talking about these spiritual topics, and also just in general. You don't want to, I feel when you're tired, you keep repeating yourself anyhow, and you kind of just lose the gist of what you wanted to say. And I'm already doing that a lot in my live streams because I'm reading your comments and I'm reading my list of things here that I want to cover. So, it would have been a bit more chaotic than it already is. But yes, so with April 1st, the entire fool's energy around it is extremely annoying. I know it's annoying to a lot of other people too. My one friend actually put up like this poll yesterday on I think it was his Instagram story. He was saying, does anyone actually like April Fool's Day? And he's actually putting that out there. And then when you click on the poll, you participate, you see the majority did it. 80% of people said no, they absolutely hate it. And I agree. It's extremely annoying. Like all these cheap jokes or just cheap, ha ha ha, I got back at you. I think they're extremely childish, extremely annoying, extremely unnecessary. And so I didn't want to do a live stream talking about more serious topics on a date like that. That is already like just kind of derogatory towards the truth. Let's put it that way. Or it's kind of just like people are not necessarily like used to taking people for true or whatever. You know what I mean? You get the idea. So yeah. But so there's a date of March 25th. Okay. So the actual New Year, the way it was celebrated according to the Julian calendar, is actually March 25th. Now, the way that they did it is they celebrated it for 1 week straight, like almost 1 week, which means if you start on March 25th, I'm going to look at my calendar right here while I'm discussing this. You start on March 25th, you end when? On April 1st. So the entire celebration, if you do stick to this entire 1 week of celebrating, the entire celebration would indeed have ended on April 1st. And this is where the entire April 1st confusion comes in and everything. And so if people are saying the actual New Year's April 1st, that is only halfway true, because actually the celebration for it starts on March 25th. And so the actual New Year is technically on March 25th. It's kind of like saying, okay, January 1st to January 7th, that's like the entire celebration, or January 8th or whatever. It's similar, like when are you going to really, like when is the date, right? So it's kind of like that. So I would say January 1st would be in that case if you start then, and similar to this, like March 25th to April 1st. So long story short, the actual New Year is on March 25th, but it was celebrated for 1 week long. So yeah, I mean, you can definitely have it go to April 1st if that's what you want. We have at least one person here in the live chat who celebrates it on April 1st. So kudos, Happy New Year to you, cheering to you with water. This is actually warm water because today I also had my aura picture taken, which I want to discuss as well. And she was saying, so you have a reading with that too. So I went to a Chinese psychic reader, and she does it like according to Feng Shui, meaning like more like the Chinese traditional medicine too. And she was saying some really interesting stuff, and I'll discuss that in a minute too. So yeah, March 25th. People are saying yes, March 25th resonates with them too. Yeah, I know, and a lot of these things, like a lot of these historical events, because they were celebrated for so long and then taken away from us, the calendar was changed in the late 1700s. So I always forget the exact date. It's like 1760 something or 1780 something. I have to look that up again, but you get the point. Whenever it was changed to the Gregorian, and everything was changed around that time, the entire mud floods came around, like everything was just switched, like our entire history or story in general, just upside down. A lot of artifacts just swummed away by mud, by the floods that came about, like the mini floods in this case, like just like these minor resets that they did. Obviously we had major resets too, but that was like a minor one, at least on our timeline that we're currently on. And so because we celebrated the March 25th to April 1st, let's put it that way, like that entire thing for so long, at least 1,000 years or even longer, depending on where in the world you were, or whatever, which culture you belong to, it's pretty much ingrained in our DNA. Like all these things are ingrained in our cell bodies, in our DNA. And that's why we remember. And I feel this is really what everything is about nowadays, the entire spirituality, that's why it's so dangerous tapping into deceptions like the New Age and also the mistruther community, because there's always kernels of truth, but then usually it's like that whoom hammer. I had that happen recently again. Like I could just not believe it. Like this person, there's like a private chat, boom, 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 like truth, 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 and then boom. Then came really that whoom, that hammer that shattered everything, being like, what deception are you really under? Like that's basically how I like to describe it in that sense. But it's just, you just need to be so careful because your consciousness really is under huge attacks right now, like huge, massive attacks. And I can't repeat this more than enough. Looking at my tulips right now. I think this is also why I'm liking these tulips more and more because, flowers don't lie. And flowers just are. They bloom whenever they want to. They're beautiful. And uh, you know what I have to say, because you have to put them, like you have these tulips and bulbs. So you put them here in earth, and you have to actually pot them yourself. I say plant, but it's actually potting them. You're putting them in a pot yourself and getting your hands dirty and really just, yeah, I really feel I'm going to develop this passion for gardening very time soon, within the next 5 years or so, like just having, I don't know, a garden or maybe a farm or whatever, like something, because there's just something so pure about working with natural things, with plants, with tulips in this particular case. I know they're not going to bloom forever. Like their season is almost over in a month or so. And then you got to wait a year, just as an example. It's similar to cherry blossoms. They only bloom like twice for 2 weeks. They only bloom for 2 weeks once a year, not twice a year, but once a year. And, there's something just so organic about nature and plants, and of course also animals, but animals are more like, you have to watch their behavior. So there's other factors that go into that too, where I almost prefer just being around that, right? Than just really being around all these spiritual deceptions and, this entire like troll energy that you find online, especially this year. And another thing that really goes into that is this Neptune and Aries energy too. So, like I said, I'm not super duper deep into astrology at all, but that did grab my attention. Like this one person was saying March 30th. So she does more astrocartography, but she was saying March 30th, which was a few days ago, Neptune entered Aries, or Aries entered Neptune, however you even say that. See, I don't even know how exactly, but Neptune, Aries, that's what stuck with me. And that right now we would be like an actual war zone. And I can confirm that, definitely more troll attacks than usual. But this entire year has already been super duper intense. And I feel that's also why I didn't find much joy in a lot of these live streams. The last live stream I did, even though we weren't really in Mercury retrograde, like a lot of technical issues. I'm surprised we haven't had that yet, because we're also here once again in the Mercury retrograde. But it's a fresher energy somehow, And so, I mean, it's just, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff going on energetically. Sui is saying, yes, I've had a lot of arguments with family members and also my girlfriend. Yeah, it's probably, so Mercury retrograde in relationships is iffy anyhow, but I think we're also in a Venus retrograde, so it probably doesn't help a lot, right now with a lot of those love relationships and everything too. And there's a lot coming up for a lot of people. Yeah, it's probably not a bad idea to just stick to your own energy right now. Whoops, that just kind of shook. Sorry, guys. You guys know my laptop situation. So laptop's like right here, basically. I can put my hand right there. And then whenever I hit the table where the laptop's on, yeah, you get it. So like a mini earthquake, exactly. And he's saying like a mini earthquake, so funny. Okay, so I totally forgot where I was, but I think I think we were talking about the actual new year, right? And Neptune and Aries, that's what I had put down here. Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde. Yeah, so Mercury retrograde, I think it's still until April 7th, and then we have a shadow period for like 1.5 to 2 weeks after. And some people say the Mercury retrograde is worse in the very beginning and in the very end. So right now we would again be in that worst state. Just putting that out there for people who think this is true. I mean, for me personally, it's been an okay Mercury retrograde. I found other energies that we had before, like in March, were a bit more intense. Obviously we had like those 2 eclipses, which are always super intense because it's like 3 full moons on steroids or whatever, or like 3 new moons and 3 full moons, whenever they are. And the Venus retrograde, I don't know, I can't really speak much on it because I've been really focused on just business things. So, I've had, of course, meetings with friends and all of that, but I can't really speak much on. Yeah, I don't feel really impacted me much this time, which is great because that seems to be huge for some. But yeah, in general, right, I want to talk about my aura picture here too. Maybe we should do that right now. Let's see. Oh, yes, there was a comment on diatomaceous earth as well. So I have to say, every time you know how a person's infested with entities and actual energetic parasites is when they really want to deter others of doing like a physical parasite detox. And so that definitely happened this week. I do have to say that too. It wasn't surprising. um I can pick up on people's energies like pretty much right away. I don't need a picture of them. You can interact with them through text message or just like, this is why I don't like to answer messages on social media at all, because you can just feel so much of energy in general. But you just tell what's going on, especially like I can, because I've been doing this work for so long. And so for me it was just a matter of time. This person was already blocked by emails too, because you can block people by email. I don't know if you guys knew this, but you can actually block people's emails, which is very handy, especially for what I do. If someone just gets too trolly or too annoying, you're like, oh, blocked. And so, I could already feel some strange energy, and also they had overstepped a lot of boundaries. Let's put it that way. And whenever that happens, you already know there's an entity trying to work through them. So lo and behold, not shortly after, there was like a little troll attack or whatever. And I'm like, oh, here it is. Okay, there we go. And I feel this is also why I needed to do this live stream pretty much unannounced, because I don't give any power to trolls and I don't really mention them in videos or in live streams. But I do have to say, if you're trolling this channel, your comment's going to be gone. No troll comments are accepted on this channel. It's just, this is a boundary I have. You're free to go to other channels, troll around there if you have nothing better to do with your life. But this energy is mine. This is something I've built up, not you. I mean, a lot of people just don't realize that. You think, oh, it's just a YouTube channel, we can just troll it. No, you cannot. You absolutely cannot. I've been working on this since 2019 and on, and I had to rebuild this from scratch after the old one was taken down. So no, you cannot just troll around my energy and my channel. And you can be happy that you're able to view these videos for free. A lot of people don't even put free content out there anymore. So I'm not going to take that away from anyone. I really enjoy interacting with you, like right now in the live stream. Hi to Oscar. But it's just there's certain boundaries you need to have, especially when you do this type of work. And so, for example, a boundary I have very strongly is I'm never going to put up personal pictures at all. Most of you will never, unless you're actually friends with me in real life, you will never know what my family looks like, what my relatives look like, what my twin sister looks like, what my siblings look, those type of things that you will never know, you will never find out, because I will never put up those pictures. If I ever do put up like a family picture, all those faces are going to be X'd out, because that's just the boundary I personally have. I've always had that, though. Never resonated with me putting those things on the internet anyhow. There's just too many weird stuff going on. I already talk about psychic attacks quite a bit, and I talk about it for a reason, because I also see it happening in other people's lives, not just mine, as an example. So, which, by the way, I do want to talk about that, but maybe not in this live stream. We're already like half an hour in. I can't believe it. Wow, crazy. See, this is like the time, the post-eclipse, like times collapse. It's just everything's faster. So there was this trolley energy around diatomaceous earth and the parasite detox. So I had this video on. You can look it up on this channel. You just type in the search box. I think you have to do it from a desktop or laptop or wherever. You just look up diatomaceous earth or parasite detox or whatever. And I had it up for a reason, because I have been doing actively parasite detox since 2017 and on, and I've been using diatomaceous earth since 2018 and on. So I've been using this for a really long time. Now, the thing about diatomaceous earth is, and this is where a lot of people just get it wrong, because they listen with one ear but not with both ears, or they just kind of listen half-heartedly, and then jump to conclusions right away. You need to first of all get the food grade 1. That is a huge difference. If you do not get the food grade 1, you're getting one that's actually meant to be sprayed as pesticides on farm fields, and that is not good for you at all. So you need to make that huge distinction between food grade and non-food grade, you know. And by the way, diatomaceous earth is also amazing when you have a pet. You know, I have a pet, as you guys know, and the pet has fleas. You can put it on their fur. You can, I mean, not a lot, but you can just rub it in their fur, and it's like the best thing ever, because we had that happen like a few years ago where you don't want to use these chemicals, right? Yeah, yeah, like you're saying, exactly. Someone in the live stream saying no chemicals for fleas. Yeah, no one wants that, you know, like absolutely, no, because that's bad for their kidney and their liver and everything. So anyhow, you can also just put it all around the corners. And so I think I talk about this more in that video too, but it's mainly used for, what I use it for is the parasite detox, meaning gut detox. And whenever there's an attack on that, I do take that quite seriously, because when someone is against parasite detoxing or gut detoxing or whatever and is promoting parasites, for me, it just means they're an energetic parasite. And so if you see that happening in your real life, now you know, because I know whenever I see that, you know, you just see through them. You just know. You just know. And so a huge one that, you know, your gut is doing amazing, by the way, is when you're just not sick anymore. And for me, that was a huge eye opener. So I started taking diatomaceous earth back in 2018. So it's been like 7 years. Yeah, it's been a really long time. And obviously the food grade one. And in that particular video, which I might link here now that I've been talking about it, but in that particular video, I actually had a website link to the one that I have. And then some people from Australia and the Netherlands were commenting how it was hard to find in Europe, or it's hard to find in there. And I was like, yeah, maybe they have like a different company that does it. And I think people were able to find it. But the one that I use, I believe they're based in North Carolina. I'm not sure. I believe they are in the East Coast, because whenever I order it, it does take a little bit, but it doesn't take as long as it does if it were to come from California. Just those things. So it's an actual name. And just if you go to the video, you see the company name and everything too. And it's like diatomaceous.com, something like that. It's the actual name. You know, they've been around since forever, but you do need that food grade 1. And so that's one way to do it and one way to prevent it. Obviously, there are other ways as well. Someone suggesting papaya seed. Yes, papaya seeds do work. You just, with the issue with papaya seeds is, and it's a natural way too. I took that. So I was in Nicaragua in June of last year, and I actually had this case because a lot of their food is just, you know, it's in the water, it's in the food, it's everywhere, especially in those third world countries or like poorer countries. But also here, obviously, if you're in America, absolutely you will have it. If you're in Germany, absolutely. You know, I got it even when I was in Cyprus. I actually got it in Cyprus, and that was like the last place I would expect it to be. But for me, once again, it showed me how strange, because Cyprus is right next to the Gaza conflict and everything. And it happened when I was there in April, right after the entire thing broke out. For me, it just showed me how infested with AI entities, astral entities that area is right now. Because when I get a physical parasite from traveling, especially, and I get it like on one of my first nights that I'm there, and it was just from random food. I think it was even like from cheese, like not even from meat or anything. I think I had like a halloumi cheese something sandwich. And after it started, like I know the symptoms at this point. I'm like, oh yeah, this is, yeah, okay, great. Okay, something wasn't pure here in this kitchen. And so when that happens, it's, you know, whatever happens in the physical, there's something in the energetic. And that's how it is with a lot of these diseases and illnesses too. But a lot of people, I guess, don't want to realize that. Or I think people who are following this channel do realize that connection to some extent, obviously. But a lot of these 3D little NPC type of people, they just don't, you know, they go, oh no, the big C, you know, they have this big C coming up right now for a lot of people. Oh no, this couldn't possibly have like one of these other causes. So anyhow, long story short, for me, that was just another beautiful confirmation that there's a lot of energetic parasitic energy in that particular area. Yeah. Okay. So Annie's saying how she was in Malaysia and she got it. Yeah, I believe it. Like right now, was traveling through Southeast Asia, Thailand, Malaysia 2 years ago. And then I can say that you had, yeah, it's in the stool, obviously. Yes. That's how you would usually, yeah, notice. Yeah, I agree. um, So I do think right now, and I do have to say, because I've been doing this for quite a while already, not necessarily 20 or 30 years that I've been doing this detox, but I have been doing this for almost 10 years at this point. It was already quite bad back then, especially after you do go to certain countries, but for sure also just by being in the US or a first world country. But for some reason, I have been needing to do it more over these past 4 years. And I do think this entire energy, like the entire AI plague and locust energy and everything that was released for sure has something to do with that. Um, yeah, it's been really crazy energetically. And so that was one point. And then I went to Nicaragua like a few months after that. So in June, and I took, while I was on the trip, because it was really bad, like it's just I think it was even from the water in that particular case. It was just so bad. I took the papaya seeds and it was okay, but what you have to be aware of papaya seeds, what you have to be aware of it is that if you take too many, it's extremely acidic to your stomach somehow, or kind of your stomach overreacts. And so then I had the opposite scenario where I was actually vomiting from the papaya seeds because I took too many. Let's put it that way. And so I want to spare you the graphic details, but you need to just be careful in general with taking the right dosages here and there. And so yeah, so diatomaceous earth is a wonderful way, beautiful way to do it. Absolutely. And it's also great for your hair. You can't really see it now because like the tubes are in front of it. But yeah, I mean, if you take it regularly, your hair even gets thicker and grows stronger, I believe. I don't even really know why. The diatom is usually like from lakes. So it's what they pick up from lakes. It's like an actual creature. I don't know if it's I don't know if this is not an insect or something, but it's like something that is along the ground of a lake. Usually it's like a freshwater lake, but sometimes I guess you could find it in oceans. And so it's this white substance and very effective. But yes, as another person already commented, do not inhale like the dust when you take it out of the bag and everything. Also, if you have a pet, make sure they don't inhale it because that is absolutely not good for you. But other than that, it's perfectly fine. It's absolutely amazing too. But yeah, you do have to be aware that it's the food grade one. And okay, wow, crazy. Already 37 minutes in, and we still have only scratched the surface of things. Okay, before I talk about my aura picture, let's talk about ancestral healing because that has also been crazy and coming up for a lot of people. So yes, there's a new course offer that I have. It's the ancestral healing course. It's called Heal Your Ancestry, and it's mind blowing. It's actually really intensive. Includes a lot of different things. I don't even know how to really introduce it, so I'm just gonna do my best. What I do want to start off with saying is that our ancestry, anyone's ancestry, by the way, but our ancestry in general is under a huge attack right now with a lot of different agendas that are playing out, in the mainstream, everything. A lot of these family units are being torn apart through other, if you just got to watch the mainstream, how they want to reshape, restructure families in general. And of course, it's been going on since World War II and on, absolutely. But right now, we're under a massive attack. You just look at what's playing out right now, what was playing out around the Olympics and everything. So it is, our ancestry is one of the most sacred treasures you can have as well. And if you truly want to understand the struggles that you're going through right now, you do have to look at the struggles of your own ancestral lineage, because a lot of these struggles come from ancestral trauma, which is intergenerational trauma or generational trauma, as people call it as well. A lot of these struggles come from actual blockages, and I see a lot of these struggles as actual knots too. So I have, at this point, I added an extra bonus exercise, but I have 10 guided visualizations in shamanic journey style. And a few of them are going to show you where the knot is in that particular one. And so the one that I actually just added 2 days ago, because I think it's an extremely important one. Obviously, all of them are of equal importance, but this one felt extremely important. It felt so important I wanted to just add it, was the blockage around money and abundance. And the reason there's so many blockages in so many families and heritages around that particular one there are plenty of reasons, but one of the main reasons really is because there's an ancestral trauma that happens with money, with the banking system, with just generating abundance, being able to generate abundance in general in a lot of families. And a lot of them go back to many generations. A lot of this ancestral trauma can be traced through DNA actually to 14 plus generations ago, which that is 400 plus years. We're talking about right now, we're in 2025, whatever someone in your lineage experienced in the 1600s or even before is still impacting you now. And that is actually in your DNA. I'm not recommending people doing DNA tests, by the way. Absolutely not. I actually do not recommend this. And I talk about that in my ancestral healing course too, and the reasons for that. But it has been actually proven through DNA testing and through everything that trauma is stuck. Trauma is stuck. And people were saying, oh, the ovaries that your grandmother has, that's the same that you as a granddaughter. Yeah, that is just a tiny bit of, that's just like 2 generations. No, we're talking about 14 generations. Like, it's actually stuck. I know, it's mind blowing, right? Minnie's saying, wow, I know, it's really mind blowing if you see it from that viewpoint and you really look at, it's getting quite heavy here, the tulips. If you really look at how deep it goes, like what exactly happened in the 1600s or 1300s or however far you want to go, however deep you want to go, and the traumas that your ancestral lineage experienced, like persecution trauma is a huge one too. So like I said, there's so much to go into. I think I have like 10 topics and then the lessons that go with those topics. So it's like 50 plus lessons. It sounds very extensive and it may be overwhelming for people, but it's actually, once you start doing them, it makes a lot of sense. And you obviously don't have to do it all in one sitting. I wouldn't recommend that anyhow. But yeah, it's quite intense. So, and it's amazing. I mean, it's really, it covers just everything. Destiny theft. It covers the conception date trauma, which I know not many people cover at all, especially in ancestral healing courses. So yes, there are like a million ancestral healing courses out there, absolutely, but they just cover all these different areas. And I feel areas that almost don't matter. And almost every single one of them teach you how to channel your ancestors or use them as spirit misguides. Whereas I don't teach that at all. As you guys know, at this point, I wouldn't teach that at all. I even talk about how you are even your own ancestor, how we come back in the same ancestral lineage and how that happens, even if there's like different countries involved, and how it's all connected to past lives and everything. So a huge one, just get back to this topic, is the one with money and abundance blockages. And I feel this is why a lot of us are being kept down from generation to generation to generation too, no matter which country you're in. At this point, it's every single country. So first and foremost, we had the banking system, like the official banking system that was introduced. And yes, a banking system in general has been around for a few thousand years. It was introduced sometime in Mesopotamia. That is a part of it. And taxes have been paid since then as well. But the most major one that I feel we're still under the influence nowadays was more like the Middle Ages or medieval ages. So that was just a few hundred years ago. And I really feel with the introduction of that, so that's just a tiny part. There's more parts. I'm going to explain that. But I really feel with the introduction of that now, instead of the barter system that we had before, now this monetary value was put on people and also their self-worth. And, oh, how much are you really worth? You're a farmer, you're only worth so and so much. Whereas if you're a royalty, you are worth a million times more, those type of things. That's just an extreme case, but that's just, as an example. Yeah, exactly. I agree. And okay, let me take a sip of water. So, and it doesn't even matter which country you're in nowadays. Everyone's under the influence of this. People are being converted into Bitcoin or electronic currency too. And it's just another layer to the AI world they want you to be a part of. But it all started with this banking system in the Middle Ages, medieval ages, which obviously even goes back to 2,000 years before that, when it first started in what's now, well, what was Mesopotamia, what's now like what? Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, somewhere around there. Anyhow, so that's just one. So now this monetary value is put on people, what they're worth, because they're part of a certain class, like back then it was a class. Like if you're a peasant, you're not worth as much. If you're so and so, you're worth more. Like if you're a duke, whatever. And then people buying their way into these circles and corruption and all of that made much easier with money than with gemstones or this and that. But obviously, corruption has always been around. And so also this monetary value was put on people's energy, like, whoa, okay, so you have to work 10 hours to earn 10 gold coins or whatever, or 1 gold coin, whatever they had back then. Obviously, they didn't have dollars and pounds and euros and all of that, clearly. But you get the point. All of a sudden, your time is money. Time's already in our DNA, and like everything's in our DNA, like the age and everything is being kept in this DNA. So now time is another factor. Time and money and energy is put together, and that's not a good mix, right? And that's what we've been under for a few hundred years already. So that is a huge major one. And then people could have actually experienced a trauma with finances or money. And the reason I'm saying money is because that's how a lot of people measure their abundance. Obviously, abundance comes in many forms, as I already said. Abundance comes in the treasures we have, the traditions we have, the family we have, the people we have in our lives, the children we have, or if that's a treasure to you, the tulips we have. This is a treasure. This is a living being. The pets we have, whatever, the treasures, the community we have, everything we have. So it's obviously very clearly, once this money factor came in, abundance was also kind of like, oh, it's money, finance. Oh, this is what it is. Put a monetary value on it. And there can be an actual trauma. For me personally, and I already talk about this when I do that particular journey too, I went back 10, 11 generations ago, which was from now to then. I did clearly see actually what this person looked like in the ancestral lineage. He had like this wig on from the 1700s. It was a him in this particular case. And there was this trauma with it that included, this huge thing. It was this huge trauma, think in terms of death and money and, people being killed because they're so rich, those type of things. So there was that involved. And when something so traumatic happens, this is a form of ancestral trauma. There's a blockage that occurs. So I see it, for example, as a knot in this particular case. So a knot in your ancestral lineage that you want to clear. And so I decided I'm going to add that exercise. It was just added literally 2 days ago. Very effective if you want to dig into it. Another thing that I will not mention on a public video is where do we go after death? What I personally have observed by being in touch with people who lost their relatives or just lost friends, or in general, just I don't want to call myself a death doula. I already said that too in a newsletter, but if you want to name it, as my personal experience of being a death doula since, pretty much like 2015 and on. I talk about my own experiences of what I've seen when people cross over, when they're on the other side and everything. And I will not mention this in a public video. So if you're curious about that, where do we go after death? What really happens? What are all these other realities that we're up against? Like not like these mistruthers saying, oh yeah, I just punch a hole and then you're out. No, it's actually not like that at all, but whatever. This is why I can't give a damn anymore about what any of these people do. Like I can't even watch anyone's videos anymore, unless it's like a travel video to a place I want to go, because the pseudo spirituality and the misleading spirituality is just too much, especially for those topics. And these are topics that are really serious. The death topic is one. And so if you want to know everything we're up against, after death, that would be one way to find out. And I do mention this in this particular course, and I will not mention this in a public video. It's just too delicate of a matter. And also, like I said, we're under huge attacks right now, troll attacks and everything. And I think people who really want to find out, they're going to appreciate that. And so that's one thing. And then, there was another thing, destiny theft, birth trauma, conception date trauma. Let me see. There's just so much. We do talk about DNA and ancestry. There's like 3 original lineages everyone originates from. and also how trauma is stuck in your DNA and ancestral lineage. So a huge one. Oh yes, the power of the name. I know this was a huge one for a lot of people because I already aired a lot of reels on Instagram and also TikTok in regards to it. Okay, so the power of the name. Um, I have like 9 lessons on this just by itself, but to give you an overview, you obviously have your ancestral name, which is usually the last name for a lot of people. And then there's also the first name, and for some people or a majority of people, a middle name, depending on which culture you're from, which country you're from. I do have a middle name, and I know people who have middle names. I also know people who don't have middle names. Like my father actually does not have a middle name, which is strange, but then my mom has a middle name, just those type of things, you know? So, there's this thing about your ancestral name and, there's trauma stuck in the energy, just baggage in general that you want to clear. Also, when you marry and change your name, that's a huge one. But then there's also meaning and energy imprint to your first name and also your middle name. So I know I got quite a few comments when I posted this on other social media platforms in regards to, I think I got 2 comments, like legit 2 comments where 2 people were saying my middle name was supposed to be my first name or something like that. And so they felt they were robbed of this opportunity of having their real first name or whatever. And I somehow resonate with it. So I actually like both my first and my middle name. But originally my mother wanted to call me something entirely different. And in hindsight, everyone in my family is really happy she never came around to doing that. So, I do understand that someone has like a first name they don't really like at all. And that they want to maybe change that to the middle name. So you should probably just dig through those lessons. If you're interested in that, you should just dig through those lessons. There's also, because I know Minnie asked this, yeah, Minnie asked us about the adoption. And then there was another comment on the adoption in one of the reels that I posted. What if you're adopted and have that different name from the adoption? Or other cases are stepfather, maybe the stepfather adopted you, took their name. Or the mother remarried very quickly and had a different, just these type of things, or like foster care is another one. So I do talk about adoption, foster care, stepfather, step sibling energy, all of that, and changing your name or what's exactly up with the name in that case, energy imprints, everything. And just in general, what happens in your ancestral lineage when you're adopted or in foster care, because those are, although it doesn't happen, I don't think it's a majority of people that are going through this. Let's put it that way. It does happen frequently enough to mention it and to talk about it clearly, because it is impacting like a lot of people. And then there's also the entire thing with hyphenated names, in a lot of Latin cultures, they like to hyphenate them. They used to do that in a lot of English speaking nations too, but for some reason it's not really in fashion anymore, right? Like maybe it is, I don't know. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. So if anyone's fascinated by names, that's always a great one to dig through. I think that was actually the first lesson I recorded. So the first 9 lessons are about names that I recorded. And I'm like, yeah, these are the ones that resonate the most with me because I myself have dug through so many names. I've dug through my own name and I had to dig really deep because initially I thought it was from a specific area, but it actually turns out it's from a different area, which is really fascinating to me. And I found that out when I was doing the exercises for this course too. And yeah, it's just, it's mind blowing. Everything that goes into a name, it's quite mind blowing because it just impacts us. It's the way that we're being labeled. So you might as well know what's really in it, what's up to it. So yeah. And the adoption is a part of that. And then obviously, right, destiny theft. So destiny theft is a huge one. I know I've been talking about that since 2020 and on. But in this particular course, I talk about destiny theft and ancestry and family, like direct family in particular. And I know it resonates with people because once again, I have received comments how, but they believe one of their parents stole their destiny or someone in their family and they're still, yeah, it's pretty common. I also want to put out there that the relationship you have to your main caregiver, which is your mother for most people, is going to always be the most challenging one. And it's really not the way, and this is what I'm saying, the mainstream is really making it seem like, oh, nothing of this is important. Of course, you're going to love your mom. And, here's another Mother's Day gift and go love your mom on this day and your father and another, and whatever, brother, sibling day on another, who knows. But no, actually, Mother's Day is an extremely challenging day for a lot of people. I want to say, if I come up with a percentage, probably like 80% of people all over the world, for a reason, because like a lot of people are just not going to have an easy relationship with their mom, or maybe their mom passed away and they never had the chance to really talk about things that were important to them, or apologize, all those things. So, or they grew up with abusive moms, abusive parents in general. So there's a lot that goes into that. Because the toxic family relationship is also very common, I do discuss that in this course too. So this is really not a course that has to do with channeling anything, channeling the ancestors. No, actually quite the opposite. We will dig through exactly what the connection is between your past and your ancestry. And this is also not a course that's being like, oh, your family's amazing, go love each other. No, no, no. This is really a course that digs through a lot of pain and hurt and trauma caused in your ancestral lineage, be it direct or further up, like more like the indirect too. And I feel this is why it's turned so intense, because when I initially just was thinking about it, I was thinking about this initially 2 years ago, but it wasn't the right time. I could feel it wasn't the right time. So then you had like the psyche protection course and everything. It's helping so many people. But basically, 2 years ago, first initial thought, yeah, ancestry, it's great if you could just dig through that. And then this past summer, again, especially after the DNA course, I was like, well, it's so connected, but it feels like it needs its own chapter somehow, or it just needs its own standing on its own, And then, so initially was like, okay, maybe we can dig through this for a few hours, or no, it's turned into this huge thing. So yeah, it's quite excessive. Like you can't just half ours ancestry. Let's put it that way. You can go as deep as you want to go. And I also say how and whatever in this course. But with ancestry, if you want to go really, 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 really deep, this is the course that you want to do, like really deep. You want to dig through all those like 14 plus generations or deeper to when everything was even created. This would be it. And this is really what the exercises give you the opportunity to do in a beautiful way, a beautiful self-guided way, which you can do on your own. And the insight you're getting, I know, is just going to be really incredible, because I've done them on my own too. Obviously I don't just record them and then, oh, that's it. No, I do all these exercises on my own too. And so when I was doing them, I really dug through these past few months when I was recording this entire thing. Is a lot that was coming up. So the main thing really was the abundance blockage, but there's a lot of blockages. So there's like love blockages that come up for people, just blockages in feeling any type of fulfillment or purpose in their life, really feeling a connection to who they are, feeling a connection to, what's going on here. Like, why are you here? Like, just those type of things. And once again, not from this new agey standpoint at all, but really there is a reason that you are part of this ancestral lineage, and it just goes so deep. And I know other people talk about this too from a different perspective. Like this one woman talks about it from the perspective of DNA, but unfortunately she really does promote the entire DNA testing, which I'm completely against, because it's a form of data mining. And now all of the info, because they got rid of this entire, was it ancestry.com or whatever, but basically your entire info is being uploaded into all these was again blockchain. I think it's blockchain, right? So it's just, yeah, who knows how many clones you're going to have now from that. So congratulations to whoever did that. But I mean, just call back all your soul pieces and everything. So just be aware of what's going on. Let's put it that way. They even have DNA testing for pets, for dogs, and I've never felt drawn to do that with my own dog. So just to give you an idea, I do think there's a really dark agenda behind it. I think the idea sounds cool and cute, and I can see why people are fascinated by doing it, by submitting their info to these blockchain type of corporations. But on the other hand, now we're seeing the disaster. We're seeing how they have your info. Even if you gave a wrong name, it doesn't matter. Energetically, that's where your spirituality is in. Your entire energy is in there. Everything's stored in your DNA. You got to be really careful who you give your DNA to. Let's put it that way. So yeah, that's a little bit of a rant on that. But yeah, okay, so destiny and theft. Destiny theft is a huge one. And I've been talking about this since 2020 on, but in this particular course, I approach it from the family perspective because it does happen very frequently in family units by family members too. And all right, let's see what else. Yes, past lives and ancestry, persecution trauma, how it shows up in your life and how you can heal from it. Yeah, very important. The family tree and family genogram, the difference of that, and why both are important when you dig into your roots. And then 6 practical ways on how you can actually connect with your ancestry, like really 6 proven hands-on ways. Also really interesting, new and old world ancestry. So obviously you have the old world, which is pretty much anything but the Americas, but Australia, but New Zealand, but South Africa, those areas. So yeah, it's just so massive. Then the newer world, what's the energy imprint of the Americas, of Australia, New Zealand, all of that. Um, oh, yes, an added one, the connection between land and your ancestry, why we feel drawn to certain places or repulsed by others, and the power those holds for us too. And yeah, and I think in short, that's a good overview of it. I can't believe I'm already like, are we an hour in? Wow, this is way longer than I thought we would be. But yeah, I'll put the link to Heal Your Ancestry below. It's really an amazing body of work. And that's the newest tea on that right now. So I'm really loving this tulip vibe here. Right. Or a picture. Yes. I think we're going to I don't think I'm going to go much further in this live. It's really nice to interact with you guys and just to chat in real life and everything too. But I can already feel like my throat is, it's kind of suffering a bit now. So it's also been incredibly cold here. I don't know if I mentioned that. I think I did mention it in the beginning, right? It's been incredibly cold. And you're just having like these constant winter blues and it's already April. Like if that makes sense. I know other people are probably going through that too, but okay, so today this is the latest picture, but yes, today I had my aura picture done. Yay. Can't really see that as clearly in that camera. The colors are in today, the colors were red, orange, yellow, and then obviously indigo, which you can't really, the camera's not really picking up that well on it, but she said, because usually, okay, let me show you the other ones that I usually have. So I haven't had an aura picture done in 4 years. So the last one I had done was this beautiful rainbow color, and this was in Sedona, Arizona. You can actually see my face really clearly. So they use different type of technologies, and this one that I use today, they can't really see the face that much, which I found interesting because usually I prefer when you can see the face. You can still see it a little bit, but not like in these, so you can see the difference. So they use a different one. It's also like a Chinese store, and they just have different interpretations for a lot of things. So I found that kind of fascinating because then the full focus is on the aura, whereas with this, it's a little bit more on the face too. So 4 years ago was like a rainbow one, and those were like huge changes. When you do a reading, because they give you a reading with it as well. He's like, oh my gosh, huge changes. You're going to be moving and blah, blah, blah. And it did happen, but it didn't happen until like half a year later. So it's also the, okay, yeah, it did happen. And then this is from 2018. It looks a little bit similar to this one because, so except for the purple, didn't have that as much today. I found this one really beautiful. And then this one I found almost the most beautiful because this is exactly, so when I showed her this, she said, yes, those are in general your natural colors. So the entire indigo, here there's blue and green, so green and blue and all of that. You can't really see the blue as much. That camera is not picking up on it as much, but when I look at it in person, there's a lot of blue. So she said this is more like my natural one, which really resonates with me because I love to wear blue. I love to wear green. I just love those colors, and I feel what we feel naturally drawn to wearing. Those are also our aura colors. So what I found interesting is, so she said, this is more my natural state, especially when I'm really relaxed. But over these past few weeks, it's been more like this. So she says, and I also found this so interesting, but she said the colors usually stay the same for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then I guess I could come back like in a month or 2 and see if they change, which I might do that. I might go back in the summer and see if they change substantially, but they might not at all. So now the focus is really more on, the passion projects, the businesses, the careers, those type of things. So this is more like the natural state where yeah, it's just different technologies too. It's like these are different stores. I want to put that. These are different people I went to in different parts of the world. So this one is actually, she's from Oregon originally. She took that, and this was in New York City. So anyhow, this is the latest one, and very grounding. Like the red and everything. Those are like more like the lower areas of the body, which I found interesting because I have been drawn to wearing more of these colors. So wearing more of yellow too, and also wearing more black, which black is a very grounding color, but also it's just been such a long winter, so whatever. But yeah, this was the most recent one, very fascinating, and a lot of focus on the stomach area. For example, she said to drink more warm fluids. So this is actually hot water. I know you can't really see that in the camera and everything, but yeah, drink more tea, hot water, just like the hotter fluids, maybe more soups or something. I don't know. Someone saying how they want their aura picture too. Yeah, you just have to check the very first one I've ever had, which is none of these, by the way, but the very first one was back in 2017. I took it in this metaphysical store in Salem, Massachusetts. And it wasn't like a Polaroid. These are actual Polaroids, which I found really nice because you can take them with you. The one that I had was like this huge printout by a computer printout, and it kind of looked like this. It had like the blue and the green. So I do know, because I already have 3 of them that look just like this. I do know this is really like my natural state of being. And then when the other colors come out, there's just been like changes. Like this one's really beautiful. Like the rainbow one was a really beautiful one. So this one in particular, she was saying, okay, so on one side, like on this side, you see more the past energy, what happened in the past, and then the future, what's to come. So it's kind of really balanced, which makes a lot of sense because I feel really balanced right now too. And then this huge surge of energy right there. And I also find it so cool that the aura kind of extends in front of my face. Like you can't see it as much in this particular picture. It's very hard with the computer screen and everything. But when I look at it in person, basically, I'll take a picture of this and put it on my social media. Maybe you can see it better there. But yeah, in short, I found it really beautiful that you can just see that the aura is so extensive. And she was also saying, wow, strong aura, all of that. I'm like, yeah, I kind of knew that. Whoops. Okay. Well, luckily, oh my gosh, luckily the webcam didn't fall off. Like usually that could happen, like when I touch the laptop. So anyhow, she was just saying strong aura, which yes, I mean everyone usually when they take these photos, that's the first thing they usually say. So it's not a huge surprise, and I do have quite a few, as you can see here from the accumulation of ones I have. But the first one I took was in Massachusetts. So what you can do wherever you are, I don't know. If you're in the US, they do have quite a few stores in the US where you can do it. I had a few done in Arizona, like in Sedona, which is like that metaphysical mecca, also like that new age pseudo spiritual mecca. But New York has one consistent one. Massachusetts has for sure a few, because that's where the entire, like Salem, obviously very known for the witchcraft trials and everything. They just go crazy about those things. And then I'm pretty sure like Florida should have a few. I don't know about Europe though, because actually when I went to the store today, there was a line, and I was surprised because it was a Wednesday. I was like, oh, did I come at the wrong time? I didn't realize this was now a tourist attraction somehow. But basically, I talked to this girl. So there were like 2 Frenchies behind me, and then this one British girl ahead of me. And she was like, I guess she was originally from London. And she's like, yeah, she wouldn't even know where in London to take this. And la la la. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess it's not that common in Europe yet. I mean, for sure, it's been more and more common in the US to take these type of things. Like, I feel they've just been around. The technology has been around since the 70s. But Yeah, I guess I don't know where in Europe. I mean, there must be some. I would assume somewhere in Berlin would even, but maybe Berlin's not that nice. Maybe not. But I would have assumed London would have a few. So yeah, I guess not. I don't know. I have no clue. If someone is in Europe, anywhere in Europe, let people know because then people just take a flight there instead of taking a flight to New York. Now, I don't think this British girl was taking a flight just because of that year, but it's just something that was maybe on her list to do. And UK is way closer than other parts in Europe, anyhow. Like Germany's much further than the 6-hour flight to Great Britain, anyhow. Used to be so easy. Every Brit keeps telling me here in the city how they would just take weekend flights between New York and London. And I'm like, weekend flights? What about the jet lag? Oh my gosh. But I guess it wasn't that big of a deal back then. I mean, this is like they're telling me back in the 90s when they used to do that. And I'm like, wow, that's dedication, like taking a weekend flight. But the reason they did that was because it used to be so cheap. And nowadays, you don't have like those 50-pound flights or however much they were. Now it's more like 300 pounds or maybe $700 or I don't know. It depends on the time of year too. So anyhow, it used to be much cheaper. Brits used to go to London back and forth, New York, London all the time. Maybe New Yorkers went to London all the time. I have no idea. That was before my era. I'm really sad I missed out on that because I do think London has a lot of cool things to offer. Not as cool as New York, obviously. I mean, New York is really the capital of the world, as we know. But it's a nice city. I mean, it's not bad. So yeah, I wouldn't know where you would take aura pictures in the UK or anywhere outside of the US, actually. Yeah, it must be possible. There must be something somewhere. But it is quite a machine. So the way they do it, you put your hands. In this case, it was two hands, but usually it's just one hand. You put it on something, and then they have like this old machine, and if it is a Polaroid, it comes out like this. Um, so maybe it's hard to ship those machines throughout the world. I don't know. Maybe it's something that originated in the US. Actually, it's a good question. I don't know how it originated. It would be something to look into. But the technology is quite old, so maybe if they came up with newer technology, they would have more accurate. Well, maybe this is already accurate enough. I don't know. Maybe it would just be more funky. Who knows? Maybe someone wants to invent a newer one for 2025. If you do so, let me know, and I'll come by and visit, and I'll have my picture taken. I'll be your guinea pig. I do like to collect them. I think it's a nice gimmick. Whether or not you believe in it, I think it's a really nice gimmick, and especially when you're already doing, this type of spiritual work, it's like, wow, yeah. It's kind of fancy and cool, and they're not overly expensive either, unless you go to like a celebrity one. Like these right now, I didn't pay much for these at all, but now she wants like 3 times the price. So I stopped going to her and she only has pop-ups anyhow, because it was just I couldn't justify the price anymore. But at the same time, I do see the difference, because here you actually see the face very clearly, whereas here, not as much. Here it's more the focus on the aura, and here it's like focus on face and aura. And I don't know what happened here exactly. Like this is a completely different machine somehow. So yeah, it also depends on the machine, right? Like I'm not an expert in this, so maybe we have like an aura picture expert, like someone who actually has a machine at home where they take Polaroid pictures. And maybe you happen to be somewhere in Europe, so you can let people know where they can take their pictures there. I know some people are upset that they don't have them. Sorry, guys. So yes, this was interesting. And then I want to talk about the interpretation she gave to me, but I can't remember it now off the top of my head. But it was a lot of interesting stuff that she said. It's helpful, it's just nice because they were Chinese, so they're really more that Eastern traditional medicine. And I haven't really had the chance to interact much with that side lately. I used to be really interested in it when I first came to New York in 2010. The first year I wasn't even spiritual then. But, I mean, of course everyone's spiritual. I wasn't like interested in those topics. But the first year I made friends with this girl who was really into acupuncture and those type of traditional Eastern medicine type of things. And so she would drag me to like the financial district. Back then it was a financial district where they had like this acupuncturist, and it was like this acupuncture clinic, whatever. And that was my first, like the first month I was here in New York, it was like, that was my first thing, like acupuncture right away. And it was so fascinating because she was already giving a lot of really extreme accurate predictions. She was like, oh, you're like extremely stressed and this and that, and in this point in your body and that point and blah blah blah. I'm like, this is eerily accurate, and I'm not ready for this yet. I was extremely young, not ready for that type of stuff in my life yet. But that, I feel that was like when I first started digging into this type of Eastern medicine, like yeah, it's traditional, right? Not non-traditional, whatever you want to call it. Anyhow, um, alternate, traditional, thousands of years old Eastern Chinese medicine. So then I became fascinated with other things like the entire meridians. It's pretty accurate too. And then acupuncture kind of ties into that and everything. And so it was kind of nice to like talk to someone like that today, who sees things from like a different perspective than the Western interpretations. Because usually like all these other ones were more according to the Western spiritual interpretations, which are nice too. But then with her, I felt her knowledge just came from a completely different standpoint and it was still accurate, if that makes sense. That knowledge is hard to summarize. So yeah, so much to that. I'm gonna put that down. Now everyone has a picture of that. No witchcraft, please. You got to do some shielding because of that. So yeah, okay. It's already 1 hour and 15 minutes. So I know there's like quite a few comments here, but I'm tired, and I know you guys are tired as well. So I think I'm just going to call it a night. Let's look at my notes down here. So we talked about the actual new year today, check mark. Talked about Neptune and Aries, diatomaceous earth, the aura, Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine, there's so much that goes into that, obviously. I can barely talk. Even my voice is like, it's too much. It's too much talking. I do enjoy these live streams because they're longer and I get to interact with you guys, and I get to slam my laptop around. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. We talked about the ancestral healing course. I'll put the link for that below in the pinned comment. Predictions coming true already, unfortunately. I mean, I'm not saying this, lightly with the entire fire issue and all of this, but yeah, it is. I mean, it's just the energy we're dealing with right now. So I'm not freaking anyone out with this either, I believe. I mean, people are feeling this in their life, right? We talked about Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde. Yeah, I think we talked about a lot already. It's been a lot. Yeah, people are just saying how they want their picture taken to. Yeah, I'm sorry, you guys. Maybe I shouldn't have rubbed it like in your faces. Well, just find out where you can take it, maybe. Or, maybe there is someone here in any part of Europe, because you can just take flights through Europe. It's easier to travel once you're like in a certain country. It's not that far. I was looking at like a flight from here to like the Caribbean or Latin America. It's already like 4 to 6 hours. It's really not close. But when you're like, let's say you're in Berlin, you want to travel to Italy or Greece or whatever, it's only like 1 or 2 hours. So if you just want to take a flight to take your aura picture somewhere, you should do that. Or you can come to New York and I can give you the address of that. No worries. I do think it's the only consistent one. I think the other ones I went to in New York so far were just pop-ups. Like occasionally you would have to buy a ticket in advance. But yeah, I think that's like the only consistent one. It's probably also why they were so crowded. Like it was extremely crowded. There's no appointment needed, but it was extremely crowded on a Wednesday. Yeah. Today's a Wednesday. Well, today's a Thursday, but I went there on a Wednesday. So yeah. Okay. All right, you guys. It was so lovely talking to you as per usual. And for anyone who missed it, you do have the replay. Thank you so much for everything you do. And I look forward to doing more lives. I'm not sure when, how, whatever, but I do look forward to doing more lives, to doing more lives, to more interacting with you guys in the future. And there's a lot of topics, as per usual. Like, I have all my notes here too. Didn't even get to those in this particular. Let's see if there's a note I want to talk about in particular. Oh, dog eyes being bigger than mine. So my dog has eyes, and I lifted her up once and we looked at each other in the mirror. And I'm like, your eyes are exactly the same as mine, like the same size, if not even a little bit bigger. And she's a smaller dog. Like, people know, right? You've seen my dog in my Instagram and everything. She's a smaller dog and she has bigger eyes than me. And also, they look similar to human eyes. And dog bloods, if a dog needs a blood transfusion, blood type O is the one that could actually donate their blood to dogs. So that's something I did not mention yet. I want to talk about that. But there's quite a few things. There's a lot of videos that just about random stuff, the random notes like that I want to talk about. I tried putting them in different topics. So we'll see how that goes. So there's a lot to talk about, clearly. It's just, I really do feel the energy has just been so funky, right? Like, this is why I'm having my tulips right here with my earth. The energy has been really funky. And I don't think it's been easy. Let's put it that way. I really don't think it's been easy. If anyone wants to confirm that, I really don't think it's been easy at all. And yeah, I'm looking at this right now. I have something. The thing my laptop is set up on is saying June 2020. Like, mentally going back to June 2020. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's like almost 5 years ago. Like, that was when we were still in craziness. But I do feel, if we just all could go back to like June 2019, like that one last year, my goodness, how pretty and beautiful it was. So yeah. Anyhow, guys, compared to now, or compared to June 2020 even. Okay, anyhow, guys, I hope you have a wonderful one. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for watching the replay. And I will see you very soon again. Talk to you then. And yeah, have a good one. Have a good start to your day whenever you're seeing this. All right. Bye, guys.